Okay, ji. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. How are you guys? So here we are with the part two of the human resource management training human resource managers. So we have been going through this chapter since last 2 days. This is our second part that we are going to talk about today. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to write the name of the chapter. This is the chapter number 8, training human resource managers. And the section 3 of your book, Training and Development. I am Masroor, Soomro, faculty for human resource management at Sukkur University, Pakistan. And this today's lecture or this video is particularly intended for the students of Sukkur University, Business Department, BBA 5. So let's start. So we left this chapter in between and we discussed a lot of things about training human resource. We talked about different types of human resource training. Okay, what are the various different forms of training that we have in the organizations? Okay, what are the necessary things that you have to go through before actually conducting a training? So here we are with the first type of a nature, our first kind of a training that has to occur for the new employees, and this type of training is referred as employee orientation. So let's start. Okay, what do you mean by employee orientation? Have you ever been oriented? Okay, when I'm saying orientation, you students, those who are studying at Sukkur University must have gone through the student orientation session whereby all the HODs must have appeared at the auditorium and you must have been given introduction. You must have been given different various kinds of information about various different things that you have to go through in this 4 years of program. Okay, so let me tell you that the same type of activity is carried out in the organization when an employee joins the company. So he has to go first, and on the very first day of the joining of his job, he has to go to the HR department, meet with the HR personnel, and it is the responsibility of the HR department to give him an orientation, him or her, I'm sorry, give him or her an orientation about the organization, whom he is going to work, who would be his boss, what are the various different types of departments that he will be interacting with mostly, what are the various facilities that you provide him or her, what is okay, you have to ensure that this employee has to go through certain IT procedures before joining the organization. You have to ensure whether this boy or this girl has gone to IT department for his ERP, for his email ID, for his biometrics, or whatever the case is in your organization. You have to establish a very refined checklist where you have to ensure all the steps that actually occurs in your company, that this employee must be given that information. Okay, ji. So achievement of the effective orientation. Here are certain guidelines that a HR personnel or a human resource department has to ensure for the new employees if they are going to conduct an orientation for them. Okay, the very first thing is to establish favorable employee impression of the organization. Okay, the very first objective of the orientation is to establish an effective impression. The first impression, as you know, is the last impression. Therefore, you have to develop, you have to establish an first impression in the eyes, in the mind of the employee who is coming into your company. On the very first day, you have to develop a long lasting impression into his or her mind so that whenever he talks about the company, it talks about good things of the organization. The second point is you have to ensure that you provide all the information that is related to the organization, that is related to the job. You have to provide all those information. On the very first day, you have to provide him with the employee handbook, whereby all the policies and procedures of your organizations would be given. Okay. You have to ensure that this employee must be given their JDs, that is job descriptions, so that they can go through them and develop a mindset what would be the necessary jobs that he or she has to perform. The third thing is to bring more work-related experiences into the process. Try to find out examples that is his or her job related. Okay, ji. Orientation, the basic function of the orientation is to accelerate the socializing. You have to introduce this person to his colleagues, to his boss, to his seniors, to his juniors, to his other counterparts in different departments. Okay, mostly those departments with whom he or she is going to interact most frequently. This will help him to socialize. This will help him develop his PR in the organization, and this will help him develop a long lasting impression into other employees' minds, those who are seniors who are already working in the organization. Okay, ji. The last thing here is to ensure the employee performance and productivity begins quickly. Okay, remember, if you don't give orientation to employees, this employee has to learn by making mistakes. He is going to make costly mistakes, and you have to ensure that you really don't encourage him to make mistakes. Rather, your basic function is to help him, is to facilitate him for what most of the time managers in the organization say when an employee comes into an organization, it takes him or her at least 6 months to adjust. So most of the time we say it's an honeymoon period. You are going through an honeymoon period. You all your mistakes, all your errors, I won't say errors, all I would be more focusing on mistakes, are not taken that much seriously, because it is the 6 months period in which you have to focus on his weak areas, and you have to ensure that you give him trainings and you develop him so that he don't make mistakes. So the basic purpose of the orientation is to avoid him from making mistakes, help him avoid those mistakes, and help him begin his performance quickly and productivity increase effectively. So here we have different diagram which ensures how you can make the orientation more effective. So prepare for the new employees. Before actually going to conduct employees orientation, you have to ensure a day before that what are the various different things on the agenda that you will be discussing with the new employee or employees that are coming tomorrow or day after tomorrow into your organizations. So prepare yourself. Okay. The second point is consider using mentors. Okay. Necessary thing is don't be so much dominating. Try to be a mentor. I try to engage different personnel from different departments who will help these new employees coming to your organization and mentor them properly. They must facilitate them. They should mentor them how they can perform their duties. Use an orientation checklist. Okay, ensure what are the various agendas, what are the various things that an employee has to tell them. You have to ensure that this person has a cubicle, this person has his own computer, this person has his own access to the computer ERP systems, this person must have its own ID. Okay, this person has its own user ID and password, this person must have his own visiting card, this person must have his own biometrics and attendance procedures and all necessary things. This person must have his own bank account opened specifically if you have your own bank accounts for that specifically specific employees. All the necessary things that has to be in that checklist. Once it is informed to the student, the checklist should be marked that it is given. Okay, cover needed information. Try to ensure that all the needed information is shared with the new employee. Present orientation information effectively. Try to be more effective. Try to ensure that the new employee is actually listening. Ensure that you are pursuing this employee. Ensure that employee is actually listening to you and getting your points. Avoid information overload. Your job is to be effective, not to be ineffective. If you are bombarding your employees with the information and this information is being not utilized properly, or this information is not actually being noted or remembered by the employees, so certainly this orientation won't be effective. Last thing is to follow up or evaluate. Your job is, once the orientation is done, the orientation is not complete, an employee is under orientation for the next 2 weeks. Therefore, after 1 week, you will call him or you will personally go and meet this person and ask whether he or she is having any kind of problem. If he or she can need help from the HR department, you are always there to help them. Okay, moving forward, TN, training need analysis. What do you understand by training need assessment? Okay, ji, an employee has to go through a need analysis. We have to ensure what kind of training an employee needs, what are the necessary things that he has to go through, and how we can analyze that thing, how we can analyze the loopholes, how we can analyze the weak areas or gray areas into an employee, or what are the necessary areas that a person has to go through. One thing should be made clear here, that we train employees not only to improve them, we also train them to strong them, to make them more stronger. Okay, it is not necessary that you only train weak employees or those employees who are not performing well. We train employees to those employees who are also performing very nicely, those who are strong, and we want them to be more stronger in that specific area. Therefore, training is always for weakers and strongers, for both. We train for both. Okay, so training need analysis talks about organizational analysis. You have to study the organization needs, where the organization is lacking. You have to analyze the organizations. You have to analyze what is the need of the organization, what is the need of the time, what are the latest trends that is going on in the market, and whether the organization is up to date or not, whether your organization needs some training or not, whether you has to go through certain change process or not. The second process is the task or job analysis. You have to study your jobs that are already being performed by the employees, whether these jobs are updated or not. Because latest trends, as the customer demands increases, so the trends increases. Sometimes it is said that organizations make trends. It is the organization that dictates the customers, but sometimes it's the vice versa. It is the customer who dictates. So we, an organization, in order to be a trendsetter, you need to keep on updating your task and to update your job descriptions. Update those jobs or tasks to be performed in a certain job. You need to keep on doing analysis, analyzing those jobs, whether you need to update in a specific area. What are the various different new softwares that are being used? How we can train, how we can change those jobs, how we can be more effective and efficient, how we can minimize the expenditure. All these things we have to analyze. Okay, I will be more specific in my next slide that actually talks about all these three things in detail. Okay, when it comes to the individual analysis, we are talking about the weak or gray areas of an individual, or what kind of training an individual himself or herself demands for his career development. So here we are. So I would be moving forward one step. Here is the information or the sources of information for the training need assessment I was talking about. Okay, when you are going to conduct an organizational analysis, you have to study this slide. Okay, organization-wide sources. What are the various sources of information when you are going to study or analyze the organization? The grievances are there, employee grievances will be helping you to develop certain trainings, accidents, waste, scrap, in which areas you need to introduce various different efficiency mechanisms where you can develop Kaizen management or what training observations during the training procedures. You was studying the employees, observations, customer complaints, exit interviews. Those employees who are leaving, they leave with a note or with certain suggestions or with certain criticisms sometimes. Use of equipment, attitude surveys, all these information helps us develop training need analysis specifically to the organization wide sources are this. The second thing is task, knowledge, skills, abilities, benchmarks. Compare your current existing jobs with another company or another competitor who is more better than you, more efficient than you. You have to study job specification, job descriptions. You have to ensure the data efficiency, employee surveys you have to conduct. Okay, you have to ensure those employees who are coming from other organization, what were the various different methods or what are the various different jobs they were performing in their organizations. You, in this way you can get the task or job related information for the analysis, and then individual employee sources are themselves are existing there. You can go for the tests, you can go for the performance appraisals. Okay, you can go for the questionnaires, you can go for the knowledge tools, and in this way you can get information required in order to develop or in order to ensure whether the organization or whether the individual or whether there is a need for the training or not. For all these three different directions are sources or components of the organizations. Coming towards the training design, a systematic training process, how the training process actually starts. It is, I already told you, that DNA is the very foundation of the training. You need to analyze whether there is a need for the training or not. So training needs assessment is necessary and is the first step of the systematic training process. Analyze the training needs, identify the training objectives and criteria, develop a criteria how you will be shortlisting candidates for a specific training, and what would be the objectives. Once the training is conducted, what would be the outcome of this training. Then the second step is to design a training. Pre-test employees or trainees. You need to test the employees whether after, in spite of conducting a need assessment, you, once these candidates are in the training hall, you need to conduct a pre-test of the trainees. Once the test is taken, select the training methods. So what kind of training methods you are going to employ, whether it's going to be a technical or soft skill. Plan the training content, how or what kind of information, what kind of topics will be covered during this training. Training delivery. Okay, schedule the training. When, where, when, how, what will be the various different sources of the trainings. Okay, what will be the arrangements. Okay, training designing, training manuals, conducting training. Okay, who will conduct the training. You have to go through the training. This is the training. Monitor the training. You have to ensure that you yourself, the HR department, is sitting in the training and ensuring that employees are learning. It has been found that employees mostly come to the training hall only for fun, not to learn. Most of the employees, the basic motive to coming to the training is to earn TADS. One. The second thing is to have a fine lunch and teas. And if third motive might be to learn something. This is the most of the cases in the Pakistan. The employee come to the organization only to have some chit chat time and have some fun time and enjoy and get refreshed and go back to their work on the second day or on another day. Okay, the once all these three steps are done, then comes to the evaluation of the training. Okay, measuring training outcomes, comparing the outcomes to training objectives and criteria. The criteria that you developed in the very first stage. Now you will have the real data, and when you will be comparing the data, you will ensure whether the employees has learned something or not. This can be possible with the post-test trainings. Mostly you have to conduct tests for the employees. Moving forward, establishing training objectives and priorities, you have to ensure, you have to study the gap analysis, you have to conduct a gap analysis, the distance between where the organization is with its current employees capabilities and where it needs to be. You have to ensure where these employees need to be trained. There are three types of training objectives: whether you are training them for a particular skill, or you are training them to give them certain knowledge about the new trends in the market, or you are going to talk about their behavioral management or attitude management. So there are three basic objectives of any training. The very first thing is the attitude. You have to change the attitudes of employees towards certain things. It can be a change management, it can be a resistance to change. So you have to develop attitudes in order to accept the change. The second thing is to give the knowledge. If what if they won't change themselves, what will happen then? And third thing is to give them skill. Tell them how they can change. What are the various strategies to change? So let's study them in little bit detail. Okay, the training design elements. Here we are given three different areas that we have to study when we are designing a training. The very first thing that we, as a trainer, as a human resource manager, has to ensure is the learner's characteristics. You have to focus on the trainee who is coming to the training. You have to ensure the ability to learn, whether this person can read and write, whether this person is ready to learn. You have to ensure that this person is physically all right, whether he can listen properly, whether he can see us what we are writing on the board. Is his eyesight 6 by 6? Whether he can talk or not. You have to ensure all the faculties are working of this person. The second thing is the motivation to learn. Whether this person is being forced to come into the training by his boss, or whether this person is coming willingly to the organization to this training. That will ensure, this will tell us this person is motivated to learn. Self-efficacy, the trainer has the self-efficacy, whether this person believes in his or her abilities that he can learn, and whatever he learns will help him. Okay, the fourth thing is the perceived utility or value. Okay, say for instance, I have been teaching MBA case study, the case study method of teaching, and I have been trained for case study method of teaching for nonetheless 6 or 7 times. I have attended 7 different trainings from 7 different trainers in case study method of teaching. So what do you think? If my boss, if my supervisor is going to recommend my name for another training in the case study method of teaching, what would be its perceived utility for me? It would be less or higher? Certainly, it will be less, because I know the subject very well. I have been teaching this course for last 5 years, so I know how to teach. In fact, now I am capable enough that I can train other employees about case study method of teaching. So my perceived utility to attend the training is very much low. So I am not motivated, one, and ability to learn is I won't be giving or concentrating when I will be sitting into the training. So resources wasted. Then the last but not the least, learner's style, learning style. What kind of learning style this person is, whether he loves to do things by himself physically, whether this person only listens and he learns or she learns, whether he sees or she sees and learns, whatever, what type of learning style you have depends, changes from person to person. Okay, the second element is the training transfer. How you will ensure that learning is occurred and now you are going to transfer it. I am a trainer and how I am going to transfer my knowledge to the trainees. Try to create a strategic link. Tell them if you are going to teach them or train them in a subject area, what would be the benefit they will have or what would be the benefit the organization will have. Okay, supervisor support. You have to ensure that the management supports the trainees. Opportunity and accountabilities are always given to the employees when they learn, when they whatever they have learned, they have achieved in a training process, they have been given opportunity to tell to others or use that knowledge into their jobs when they are on the job, when they are on duty. Okay, then last thing is the accountability. Ensure when an employee goes for training and he or she has attended a training, whether the person is actually using that knowledge or not. Whatever he or she has learned, ask him or her to tell others, train others in the subject area. Okay, ji. Third thing is the instructional strategies. If you are a trainer, you have to ensure what type of instruction method or strategy you are going to adopt. Most of the trainers use all of these strategies when they are training employees. Practice and feedback. Okay, they will ask you, they will give you a problem, they will ask you to practice it. Once you have practiced it, then they will come to you and ask you to come and present it and discuss with it you, and then at the end they will give you a feedback. Overlearning by repeating same thing again and again, just in your case, whenever I ask you in my class what are the various functions of HR, that is to attract, motivate and retain, and all these three functions are memorized, are placed in subconsciousness, in your subconsciousness. Whenever I ask you what are the three basic functions of HR, you, without any thinking, you just say attract, motivate and retain. This is overlearning. This is the result of overlearning. Most of the trainers get you repeat certain thing again and again. Behavioral modeling, you actually model yourself by behaving in a certain or particular way. Error based examples, you actually find case studies, come and discuss those examples in the class or training hall and ask the employees what do you see in this problem, how you can problem this problems, this issue or this case. Okay, the last thing is the reinforcement, immediate confirmation. When you ask a question and someone answers you right or someone answers you wrong, you actually immediately confirm it whether this person is telling you right answer or wrong answer. Okay, let me tell you one more thing here. When you are immediately confirm a wrong answer, don't do it. There is always a way to confirm that someone answered a question in a wrong way. Try to compare his answers with majority of the answers, and the person will learn that this person has answered to the question in wrong way. Training design continues. Okay, as I was telling you, the learning styles, there are three basic learning styles a person can have. An auditory, you actually listen and you learn. Tactile. Tactile is when you actually involve yourself. You want to do it by yourself, by your hands, and you learn. Okay, some people learn by visuals. You only visually see and learn. Moving forward, okay, ji. I have been discussing this thing earlier, ability to learn, whether this person can read and write, whether this person can listen and talk. Okay, all the faculty, all the mental faculties are working, all the cognitive functions and motor skills are working properly. This person can learn easily. Okay, motivation to learn, whether this person is motivated to learn, whether this person comes to the training himself, or whether he has been or she has been sent forcefully. The training, self-efficacy, the belief in oneself that he or she can learn and use that information. Perceived utility, as I've quoted an example of case study. What is the value in your mind for that specific area? Principles of adult learning. Okay, most of the time when you are training, you train to the adults, not to the children. You are not actually teaching students. You are not actually training to infants or pupils into lower junior classes. You are actually training the adults. Therefore, there are certain principles that you need to keep in mind. The very first principle talks about have need to know why they are learning something. Ask them why you people are here. Why do you want to learn this subject? Why you are listening to my lectures? What is the basic reason of listening to my class? Have need to be self-directed. Ask them, and specifically, you will come tomorrow by reading such and such article, and we shall be discussing those articles. Okay, when they are in the class, ask them who is going to initiate. Let them break the ice. They should be self-directed. They should give the results by themselves, not you. Okay, the third thing is bring more work-related experience into the process. Whenever you are giving them training, try to find out examples from their day-to-day life. Try to quote examples from your own personal life. Okay, you must you have seen me quote various different questions, quote various different examples from the lifetime. Okay, moving forward, employ a problem solving approach learning. Try to find out problems and discuss those learning. Ask them to give them solutions to those problems. Are motivated both intrinsically and extrinsically. Find out whether these employees need an financial reward or they need some motivation. Try to find out whether you can motivate them by immediate reinforcement, whether these people need self-esteem to learn, whether they need moral boost to learn, whatever the need is moving forward. Okay, instructional strategies, learner participation, how you will ensure that learners are actually participating. There are active practices and there are passive practices. Okay, we will be talking about active practices. Okay, what do you mean by active practice? Engaging the employees into the process of learning. Okay, what do you now when we are talking about engaging employees, we have two different practices that we use. One is the space practice. You actually ask the same question with a period. Okay, I actually told you a certain thing, and I will be asking you time and again about the same thing again and again. Okay, say for instance, if I ask you what are the various operations of HR, you will be answering means it starts from recruitment and selection, then training and development, then it comes to the performance management, then it comes to the compensation management. These are the basic operations. Then it comes to the IR, into industrial relations. These, okay, when I will be asking you this question after a day or two, this would be referred as what? Spaced practice. Okay, the another practice is that I will be telling you everything and will ask you at the end of the day or at the end of the semester that I taught you on such and such date in the beginning of the semester that what were the various functions of the HR, what were the various functions, what were the three basic functions of HR. Then this type of practice would be referred as master practice. This is not most of the time appreciated. Okay, moving forward. Other instructional strategies over learning. Learning by repeating the same thing again and again, again and again, again and again, without any space. Error-based learning, bringing case studies to the learning process. Behavioral modeling, you actually behave in certain object or subject under study. You actually model yourself. You actually involve people into role play. Okay, ji. Immediate confirmation, you actually confirm the employees whether they are right or wrong. From training to job transfer. Okay, how you will be ensuring that the employees are transferring the knowledge that they have learned during the training process. Occurs when trainees actually use on the job what they had learned and maintain the use of learned material over the time. Okay, believe me, guys, when I was trained in case study method of teaching, when I actually started using those strategies that have been taught to me, I significantly noticed the difference that I was teaching the same case study but in a more better way. Yes, this will happen when you actually use the training that you have learned, actually implementing those strategies that you have learned in the job, you will notice a difference. Okay, increasing the transfer of training, offering trainees an overview of the training content and process. Okay, how you will be ensuring, how you will increase the transfer of training. Once the training start, your job as a trainer is to tell employees what you are going to discuss today, discuss the agenda with them, and then one by one cover that each topic. Ensure that training mirrors the job context. Your job is to see whether the trainees are actually mirroring what you have actually trained them for. Okay, here we end our second part, our third part of the lecture, and we shall be proceeding with the second part after a while. Meanwhile, I want you to discuss, sorry, coming back. So thank you very much. We shall be starting our third portion of this class in our next meeting. For now, thank you very much. I am Soomro signing off. We shall be meeting our next meeting very soon. I hope you will be having certain questions. I will be waiting for your question answer session in the evening. Till then, bye bye, tata, ciao.